Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be with Dr. Carole Lieberman. Dr. Carole Lieberman is a forensic psychiatrist, and thank you for joining me today. I want to, get right out into the issue about your concerns about the behavior that Kamala Harris exhibits in contrast to former President Trump.
Well, of course, there are numerous differences, all of which make Kamala the worst, the disastrous choice. And Trump clearly what our country is dependent upon to win. So first of all, in terms of how they are on the campaign trail, Kamala is a mean girl. She is like one of those girls in high school that are very mean to other girls, try jealous and try to show that you're better, that the mean girls are better. And of course she has this cackle that was the first thing that everyone knew about her and saw about and still sees about her. And so the cackle is so interesting. First of all, I think that's a sign of her having imposter syndrome. She is cackling, laughing, from the beginning to end, from when she first became vice president. She had this cackle. And it's because she's feeling really uncomfortable. She's feeling like she knows she's an imposter, that she never deserved to be vice president in the first place. She only got picked to be vice president by Biden or by Obama because of her being almost black and or half black and a woman. And not because of any qualities that she has, any talent or any intelligence that she has. So she knows this. Everybody knows this. And so the cackle is like a laugh of anxiety, of discomfort, of, she still can't believe that she was vice president. It was like, yeah, I'm vice president. And it reminds me of Howard K. Stern. Do you remember the boyfriend and sort of husband of Anna Nicole Smith? He would have a kind of, not so much a laugh, but he had a grin. He had this cat that ate the canary grin. And it was the same thing. He felt like an imposter because she was like the prom queen that he could never get, that he knew he would never love him. He could never have gotten a prom queen in high school because he was like a little nerd. So he's still, that was that cat that ate the canary smile. Now, comparing her to Trump in that regard, well, first of all, he does not feel like an imposter. He knows that he has said in many different ways that he is the difference between America surviving as a democracy or not. And so, he doesn't feel like an imposter. He doesn't feel like he's putting something over on people. He doesn't feel like he has anything to sort of be ashamed about or, question himself about. And let me see. Now, so that's why he doesn't have any behavior like a cackle or like this kind of cat that ate the canary smile. Now, when he almost was assassinated, for a while, his personality did change. He wasn't as harsh towards other people, as critical towards other people. He was just more grateful to be alive, and sort of, like in wonderment, and grateful to God for his still being alive, and just in wonderment about it. Now he's kind of gotten over that, and he's back to being critical. But you kind of have to be, because it's absurd that Kamala is running for president. It's absurd in a number of different ways. First of all, she didn't really get selected or elected the way that you're supposed to, that a nominee from a party is supposed to be elected to be the representative. She just got picked by the powers that be, which is predominantly Obama and perhaps the Clintons, although Hillary really wanted to be the one to run. But so I was just lost my train of thought because I was thinking about okay, so comparing again to Trump. So she knows she wasn't picked. I mean, that's another reason why she feels like an imposter, because she wasn't really selected or elected the way you're supposed to be for someone running from your party. Anyhow, so Trump, I was saying that he has gotten a little critical again, but I think it's because, and certainly I feel this way, he looks at her, he looks at the possibility of her, like, what would happen to this country if she became the president? And he's aghast. I'm aghast. I mean, I'm starting to think, where could I move? Because this country would totally go downhill really, really quickly if she became president, even, and especially because, Obama would be behind her too. So yes, he is critical of her. And, you can't help but just be mind blown, dumbfounded by some of the things she does and says. So yes, he's gotten back to that part, and perhaps some people see that as being a little too nasty, but and even though we can understand why he's like that, because it's just so it would be so unbelievable. And he's trying to get people to see the problems that they would have if she got to be president. So, okay, let me talk about something else. First of all, as a Jew and someone who loves Israel, I am also aghast at the possibility that she would become president, because of what that would mean for Israel. That would mean the destruction of Israel. I mean, she, and just like Obama, it's partly him leading her, but it's partly also her, her being BFFs with the Quad and all that, the squad, the squad, the Quad and the squad. She does not like Israel, whether she's president or not. I mean, yes, she's married to a Jew, and how that happened, that's a whole other story. We can get into that in a bit. But she does not like Israel. She is like the squad, and does believe in the benefit Palestinian, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-Iran. And so that would kind of be the end of Israel as well. Whereas Trump, when he was president, he did all kinds of good things for Israel. He moved I always forget whether it was the embassy or the consulate, but one of them, to Jerusalem, to claim that, to show that that is the capital. And then, of course, he did the Abraham Accord, and that, was starting to bring about peace. And which is why all these things happened, because the Hamas or Iran really behind them didn't want the Abraham Accord to continue and to grow and so on. They didn't want peace in the Middle East. So, with Trump, things were really good when he was president for the Middle East. He destroyed the caliphate in Iraq, and he, as I was saying, protected Israel, and he wouldn't let these kinds of things happen, which kind of goes into the border, because Kamala, who was supposed to be the border czar, I think she misunderstood, or wanted to misunderstand, her job as the border czar. Of course, now they're trying to say, oh no, she was never the border czar. I mean, really? So what she has done, again, with the backing of Obama, and Biden was just, he has dementia, so he doesn't really know. He just wants to know where his next ice cream cone is coming from. But she has controlled the border by opening it by allowing anybody to come in. And we know we have terrorists on the terrorist watch list. We have terrorists who are not on the watch list, but they are terrorists. I mean, they believe in the radical Islamic agenda, which is to destroy America, to destroy the world, to put the world under Islamic rule, under Sharia law, particularly, of course, to destroy the West. So she believes in all of that. And excuse me. And and so, so that's why there is no stopping the border. And Trump, of course, he started to build the border wall, and none of this would have happened under his reign. So, and that is such a major issue. We have seen what is happening in Europe. We are seeing more and more what's happening in Europe, where they open their doors to migrants, to radical Islamist migrants. She doesn't want you to say, and Obama he told even the counterterrorism organizations, do not use radical Islamists. You're not supposed to call a spade a spade. So she goes along with that. And now, we're seeing what happens in countries in Europe, France, England, Germany, Belgium, countries that have let in radical Islamist migrants and who are suffering. England, for example, right now is in the midst of a civil war. They kind of started something happened which really kind of just lit the fuse, which is similar to what happened in France a few years ago. There was an incident in France where a policeman shot. He didn't mean to do this. He stopped a teenager who was driving a car, and the teenager was from a radical Islamist family. And he stopped him because he had done some traffic infraction, a red light or something. And then the boy wouldn't show he wouldn't show the policeman his ID or something like that. And anyway, so he tried to put his foot on the accelerator. And that jostled the policeman who was standing outside the car with his gun out. And so the gun went off and it hit and killed this teenager. And that set all of France ablaze. That is all that the radical Islamists needed, some kind of trigger, literally a trigger. And so there was rioting and fires and looting and everything. Now in England, we had this incident where a place, it's called Southport, a sleepy little British town, where they were having a party for little girls, a dance party, where they were playing Taylor Swift music. She didn't have anything to do with it, but they were just playing her music, and it was for little girls to dance. And a young man came in, 17 actually, and he had a knife. And he started knifing the little girls, and he killed 3 of them and injured more. And that was, and they wouldn't say they wouldn't give out the name, and they wouldn't say anything about who he was, or his address or his family or anything. It turned out that he was born in the UK, but his parents migrated there from Rwanda. Surprise, surprise. And, whenever there's an incident and the country doesn't, or the city, wherever it is, the authorities there don't tell you the person's name or don't show a picture of the person, it's terrorism. That they're trying to protect the identity because they don't want people thinking that it's terrorism, knowing the truth. So that happened for a few days. And then, of course, then a judge decided to give out the name because he turned 18 6 days after he did this. And so it was close enough. And the judge did give out the name. And then the media found out that it was from this family from Rwanda and so on. And so that got a lot of British people angry because, these sweet little girls, they were like, they were like 6 and 7 and 8, maybe 10, adorable, innocent. And it was just overwhelming to see that this terrorist, who they're still not calling a terrorist, came and did this tragedy. And so there's some word that some British people did something to a mosque. I don't know, put fire in a mosque or did something, nothing major. Nobody was killed. But that set the radical Islamists on fire, as far as made them angry. And so now there is civil war in Britain. They and it is so absurd because, and this is why it's so scary, getting back to Kamala, because it's bad enough that there's this civil war of real British people, British natives, versus these radical Islamist terrorists who, when you see them in the street, the comparison of these tough terrorists, compared to these British men who, it's like such opposites. And of course, one of the terrorists could just kill, but with their bare hands, a bunch of Brits. And walking into a tavern and just putting them all on the ground. There's no comparison in strength. So anyway, but so now the worst part is that the government is taking the side of these terrorists and saying that this is all Islamophobia that the Brits are showing, even just when they're not doing anything. They're just coming out in the streets and waving British flags or doing something to show that they're Brits, and the government is arresting them and taking the side of these terrorists. Now, if Kamala were president, that's exactly what would happen here. Well, first of all, they're coming across the border. They are across the border already. And if there was a civil war like this, which there would be, whether there is going to be terror attacks in America any day. I mean, it's really imminent. And if she were to take the side of the terrorists, I mean, can you imagine that? Your leaders are supposed to be protecting you, protecting the country, and they are just importing terrorists. And so that, that's, I guess, in a way, perhaps the worst thing that that would happen with her as president, that we would have terror attack upon terror attack, immigration. It wouldn't even be called immigration. I mean, they're even flying people in to small airports and distributing them around America. And they took 80,000 Afghans when Biden surrendered in Afghanistan, and they brought them to America. And they weren't all good guys. They weren't all people who helped translate for the American troops there. I mean, that's what they were saying. Well, we have to take care of them because they took care of our troops and all. Not 80,000 of them, and they certainly couldn't bet them enough to know that to weed out the ones who were real terrorists and who want to attack. So we are in such, and we're coming up to 9/11, another anniversary of 9/11, and we are in such danger. Every year I do something for the anniversary. The past 3 years, I've been having a truck, a mobile billboard, go around Manhattan and Washington, D.C., playing a video, a music video that I created, which has to do with why we all need to remember 9/11, how to talk to kids about terrorism, all kinds of things like that. Symptoms to recognize if you have PTSD and the anniversary is triggering it, things like that. And I'm going to do it again this year. And so, I don't know what Kamala is going to do or say for the anniversary of 9/11, but last year, Biden was the first president who didn't go to one of the sites of the attack of 9/11, not to New York, not to Pennsylvania, not to the Pentagon, and first president. And God knows where Kamala will be. I know I've been talking on and on, but as you can tell, I feel very strongly about this and very frightened for America.
Well, along with that issue, Dr. Lieberman, is blame shifting. you're concerned about the terrorism across the border. And I've heard Kamala Harris recently, blame Trump for the border problems. So she's accusing Trump of blaming them. She's accusing she's accusing Trump, and he's accusing her of things that both sides are accusing each other of lying. So,
but how does she blame it on Trump? How is she claiming that Trump had anything to do with this?
Well, just about his previous border policy, she's not being responsible, and she's saying that whatever Trump did regarding the border, she's saying that it's all his fault. We're having these current problems because of the immigration policy of Trump. But she's the one that's on the watch, as you were pointing on. She's been designated as border czar, but she's this blame shifting for Trump. And I wondered if you see that often, the use of blame shifting in political campaigns, especially this one.
Well, sure. I mean, Biden did that too. I didn't hear him say it necessarily about the border, but just in general, trying to say saying that the economy, well, first of all, he denied that our economy now is bad, but to the extent that he would admit it, he blamed it on Trump, which of course is ridiculous.
Well, there's so much emotion on both sides of this issue. There's so much at risk. And I know you're concerned about, and I think many Americans are concerned about our national safety and national security issues, the border, the economy, and we wait to see what will happen with this upcoming campaign, the Democratic convention, and the presidential election coming up in November of this year.
Yes, the Democratic convention should be interesting. I would love it if some people tried to say Kamala wasn't picked by us and we want somebody else. I don't know who they'd want, but something to disrupt the whole campaign.
Well, it's becoming very personal. There are a lot of attacks on both sides, and if the candidates really stick to the issues, then it would be a lot better for the voters. But I sure appreciate you sharing your thoughts on these matters. Dr. Carole Lieberman joining me today, forensic psychiatrist, and we have a lot of serious issues to deal with. And I thank you for joining me on these very crucial issues.
Well, you're welcome. I would just like to mention, my point to where I'm coming from, why I'm so focused on terrorism and so on, is that I am the terrorist therapist. I've been doing that, devoting a lot of my professional time to being the terrorist therapist, and to helping people cope with terrorism, but also warning them. I've been warning people for years with my books, with my podcast, The Terrorist Therapist Show, telling them, trying to get them to see that it's not, 9/11 is not the one and done. They are out. It's global jihad that terrorists want. For over 1,000 years, that was their plan. So I've been, on top of this for since 9/11. Really, I wasn't that focused on terrorism before 9/11, but when that happened, I started getting focused very quickly. And so I just want people to know that I'm just not kind of spouting off about it, giving my opinion. I work in this. In fact, let me mention my latest book on terrorism. It's Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My, How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror. And my website is terroristtherapist.com.
Well, thank you for sharing. I was going to ask you about the books in which you're involved with in your website. Once again, your website again is
terroristtherapist.com.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lieberman, for joining me today. Like I said, on these very crucial topics.
You're very welcome.